As you see, we're here in the countryside, in the middle of the countryside, near the river Taro, and this is the Ettore Guatelli Museum, so called. Ettore Guatelli was a primary school teacher who founded, collected and created all we're going to see. There are about no less than 60,000 items in the museum. Obviously not all in the rooms that we shall visit. A lot of them are outside, have been stored away, and a lot of work has been going on anyway in order to assemble things and put them together and find a space for them. He lived all his life here with his family. There were 3 brothers and a sister. The only living person is now his sister, they're all dead. It was a big family, like it used to be in the countryside. Parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles. And they were all very, very close together. They worked for most of their life on a sharecropping basis until they had enough money to buy the land. There was the house where they lived, and here was the granary and other storerooms. A lot of work has been going on, and we shall see as we go along. And all the rooms were completely stocked up with things. Chairs, tables, charts, wheelbarrows, anything you can think of. And there was no room anymore. And you will see that rooms are completely full. Not only the walls, but the ceiling and everything, doors, everything else. And we shall then explain it was actually a new way of creating this type of museum. So, here's the entrance, and have a look around, because I don't suppose you've seen many museums like this. Not only because of the items that are exhibited, but also because there's practically no centimetre square empty, free of things. The walls are full, the ceiling is full. Firstly, because there wasn't much space. And Guatelli also thought that if he left, for instance, the door or the wall empty, that would have been a waste of space. So no one could waste anything. It's a collection of mostly items from the countryside, from farmers. What the farmers used to use in the last century, starting, let's say, from the end of the 18th century, well into the 19th century, the 20th century, and nothing is new here. All objects have been used and reused and readapted. Now, people were very poor, they had nothing, and so they had to really work hard and make one thing into another, and adapt things.
Make?
One thing into another, cioè una cosa nell'altra, cioè adattare le cose. Sì. So this is, for instance, that's a chart, but which used to be used for the grape harvest, and it's now been put against the wall and full of wheels. There are windmill wheels, cart wheels, wheelbarrow wheels of any kind, and it has become one of the symbols of the museum. Guatelli was a very simple person. He wasn't known at all at the time. And it was only, he actually went round. As I said, he was a primary school teacher, but he was very, very, very much attached to the land, to the place where he lived throughout his life. And it was actually, I think, first and foremost, his love for the people, for the poor people that worked so hard, that prompted him to collect all these items, all these things. And then he went round. Round the place here, much more on the hill, between Emilia, he collected most things between Emilia and Liguria. They were not antiquarian, obviously, not antiquarian shops, but what we would call in Italian rottamai, that's all bric-a-brac places. This whole very, very simple things. And so, other things that are here are, for instance, these are trunks. Trunks with this pannier. And they're called thresher, actually from the Latin tribulum. They are thresher for the grain harvest. You had the grain from you put it on the ground, then you passed on top of it with those. Obviously they were with the help of animals or cattle, because they were just a little too heavy. And so these were the thresher. And all around are containers for the wine. That's the roller. When you had the grain, when you saw the grain, and you pass it over with that roller in order to press it onto the ground, so that the birds wouldn't eat it. And if we go, we have a tub there, which is fairly white. And it's a strange thing for the color. This was used for the washing. That's why it's so white. Because in those days the washing was done with ashes containing potassium, which obviously made the sheets white, and also the women's hands white. So that's sorry. Those are hooks. Those hooks are there. And double use. For one, they were used to put salami or anything else to season. And the other use was to pick buckets when they fell into the wells, where they picked the water, where they took the water from. Going upstairs, there's a wonderful curtain here, which is made of bottle caps. It makes a noise. It's so wonderful, children, because I always ask them what they think of the noise, and they invariably say they think of shells, or they think of the wind, or they think of the rain. So many suggestions this does make. Going upstairs, if you turn around, you'll see that there is a star. So it wasn't made just like that, putting bottle tops together, but there was a drawing. And there were colors put in with it, so it's aesthetically beautiful. Going up the stairs, most of these are containers for grain or mice. And they actually measured how many kilos a sack contained. And if you think that, for one reason, because they have to sell a lot of it, and the other reason is that they had to split it, to half it with the owner of the land, and therefore this was used for that. So many made a sack, for instance, 80 kilos or something like that. This was an official one. The others are homemade. That's a coffee toaster. Obviously, it wasn't used in a house, but it was in a shop or.
In a shop of collecchio.
The collecchio.
Sani e
This is a model for hat. Model for hats, wooden ones. Obviously this is standard measure. Then we have clocks here. Very poor clocks. These were probably the only ornament there was in the house. But the beauty of them is the kind of house or castle that was made for them. Each one has a sort of house. You know, each clock is housed into something. And then it was painted at times. And each one is different. So despite the poverty, there was some imagination, which never fell. Those combs, metal combs.
Come lo chiami? Combs?
Sì, pettine.
Ah.
Those metal combs were made for picking bilberries. It's actually forbidden to pick them now, but it used to be done in those days. And obviously it was much easier to pick them like that, pick them by hand, and they were actually for selling or eating. And all these horseshoes. And the ceiling full of baskets, wicker baskets.
Come li chiami i ferri di cavallo?
Horseshoes, scarpe da cavallo. Wicker baskets. And the instruments, music instruments, the instrument of a band from a place called Tarsogno, which was where Guatelli was also ran a kind of summer camp. Long time ago. And when they changed their instruments, they actually gave them to the museum. So there's a kind of link between what he did and what is here now. All these are churns to make butter at home or in my much more industrialized way. Other containers are those wooden ones. They containers with the holes in them, as you can see along there. Those containers, there is a reason for those holes, and that was for making for doing homemade cheese. During the winter, when there wasn't the milk was kept at home, so the women made the cheese. Sometimes it was eaten right away, and some other times it was kept for a few months, and they collected away from the hole, through the holes. The whole it was again used for the cheese, to keep it soft. For the lamps, nothing was thrown away, nothing was to be thrown away. Everything was being kept. Here we have shop insignia, shop signs. Some are very old and some are fairly new or not so old. Until the 1960s or 70s perhaps, you could see some of those outside the shops. Up there where it says the Walter, there you see there was a painting, and unfortunately it's almost disappeared, but it represented the three kings, and apparently the Walter became afterwards became the Walter. First it was the three kings. It was a very poor restaurant, let's say, what we call trattorie. And what was the three kings, and so the symbol was the three kings, and then it became another proprietor, was the Walter, and so it changed the name. Some of those belong to the 1920s, 30s, during the Kingdom of Italy. Other containers for the wheat, the grain. These are ornaments for carts, wooden ones, iron ones, all different sorts. And with a lot of imagination, with a lot of, you could see they are made of, they are birds and snake, dogs, all different kinds. This is a way that shows you, for instance here on this wall, it shows you that poverty didn't mean that there was no idea, that there was no imagination, because these are works of art. These are, and here we go into the, this is a kind of wunderkammer where the toys are. Children are always, you know, because everything is new to them. They've never seen anything like it. These are homemade toys. Very, very few were bought in shops. There was no money. Also, there were very few toy shops.
More.
No, adesso sì, non c'è il santificio. These toys are made as an imitation of the work that was being done in the countryside. Children always played. There's a need to play in order to learn how to live later on, but parents didn't have money to buy anything. So, what did the children know then? You only the work that was done in the fields. So what did they do? They imitated, they copied the tractor, but what with the material they had, and there was that tin of oil, tuna fish, tin, anything, piece of wire, piece of wood, few nails, and here we have a tractor. They work actually, they were made in such a way that they actually work. There is no wheel that doesn't travel. So they had a lot of imagination, but they're also very good at making them. They tractor with a chain. Sports car. It was just made of wood.
Maserati.
Sì, forse, questo non lo so. And carts and hammer and sickle and everything else. And the other toy, which is very appealing to children, is this one. It's a sort of butterfly. And they will say, oh, it's
Very noisy.
yeah, it's a bit noisy, but it has to be. So they say, oh, yeah, it's a plane. That is a plane, they think.